In a quiet little cottage, nestled at the edge of the whispering woods, lived an old woman named Clara and her husband, Thomas. Their days were filled with simple joys, but one deep wish remained unfulfilled. They had always dreamed of having a child, but the years had passed as softly as falling leaves, leaving their home quiet, save for the ticking of the old clock and the warm crackle of the fire. But one snowy afternoon, with the world outside painted in white, Clara decided to bake something truly special. She gathered honey, butter, sugar and flour, humming a gentle tune that seemed to fill the still air with hope. "If I can't have a little boy," she murmured with a wistful smile, "then I shall make one." With loving care, she shaped the dough into a small, cheerful figure. She gave him a round face, pressed to plump raisins for eyes, a sweet cherry for a mouth, and a neat row of almonds for buttons down his chest. She carefully placed him in the oven, and soon a wonderfully sweet smell wafted through the cottage, wrapping it in a warm, sugary hug. When the timer chimed, Clara opened the oven door. But before she could even reach for him, the gingerbread man sprang to his feet, right there on the hot baking sheet. He let out a tiny high-pitched cry. "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man." Clara gasped, nearly dropping her wooden spoon in astonishment. "Thomas, Thomas, come quick. He's alive," she cried out, her eyes wide with disbelief. But it was too late. The little man leaped from the oven, his candy buttons shining brightly in the afternoon sun streaming through the window. With a laugh that rang like tiny bells, he zipped right out the open door. He raced through the snowy fields, a little brown blur against the white landscape. He sped past the goats and the hens, who clucked and bleated in surprise. He followed the winding path that led toward the deep, dark forest. The animals just stared, blinking as if they'd seen a walking, talking cookie. A sturdy brown horse in the pasture neighed, "Stop, little man. You smell far too sweet to be running all alone out here." But the gingerbread man just laughed over his shoulder. "I've outrun an old woman and an old man, and I can outrun you too," he boasted, his tiny legs moving faster and faster. On he went, his confidence growing with every step, until he reached the shadowy edge of the forest. And there, sitting patiently under a tall pine tree, was a sly fox. His fur was the color of autumn leaves, and his eyes were as clever as moonlight. He watched the approaching gingerbread man with a curious tilt of his head. "Why are you in such a hurry, little traveler?" the fox asked, his voice smooth and soft like velvet. "I'm running from everyone. They all want to eat me," declared the gingerbread man, puffing out his chest with pride. The fox let out a low, rumbling chuckle. "Is that so? Well, I have no wish to eat you. But look ahead, the river is wide and fast. If you try to cross, the current will surely crumble you to bits. Now, if you climb onto my tail, I'll carry you safely to the other side." The gingerbread man hesitated. The water shimmered before him, looking cold and menacingly wide. He didn't want his grand escape to end here. Finally, he gave a small nod and carefully hopped onto the fox's thick, bushy tail. The fox began to swim, gliding smoothly into the deeper water. As they moved toward the middle of the river, the water rose higher and higher, lapping at the gingerbread man's sugary feet. "Move onto my back," the fox suggested calmly. "The river grows a little wild here." So the gingerbread man scrambled up onto the fox's back. A moment later, the water surged even higher. "Closer to my head," the fox said, his voice still even. "You'll be much safer there." And so, the gingerbread man crept forward until he was holding on tightly to the soft fur on the fox's neck, feeling the powerful muscles move beneath him. But just as they reached the far bank, the fox gave a sudden, quick toss of his head. The little man flew through the air in a perfect arc and landed not in the fox's mouth, but safely on the soft, grassy shore. The fox blinked, a flicker of genuine surprise in his clever eyes. "You're quicker than I thought," he said, a note of respect in his voice. The gingerbread man stood up and brushed a few stray sugar crumbs from his arm. He looked at the fox and smiled. "And you're kinder than I expected." The fox's golden eyes seemed to soften. "You remind me of someone I once knew," he said quietly, his gaze distant. "She believed kindness could be baked into a heart, even one made of dough." The gingerbread man tilted his head, listening intently. The fox continued, "Her name was Clara." The gingerbread man froze. The name echoed in his small head. The fox then dipped his head low in a respectful bow. "Go home, little one. Someone is still waiting for you by the window." A strange, warm feeling spread through the gingerbread man's chest, though he had no real heart to beat. He finally understood. He turned and ran back through the forest, his purpose now clear. He dashed across the fields, and this time the horse, the hens, and the goats all cheered and mooed as he passed. When he reached the cottage, he peeked through the window. Clara was sitting by the fire, her shoulders slumped, with tears glistening on her cheeks. He pushed the door open just a crack. She looked up, and her breath caught in her throat. Is it really you?" she whispered, her voice filled with fragile hope. "It's me," said the gingerbread man softly, "and I've come home." She rose and lifted him ever so gently, as if he were made of the most delicate glass, and placed him on the table right beside a loaf of warm bread. From that day on, the little cottage was never quiet again. The gingerbread man didn't run any more. He learned to stay and share his sweetness with the two people who loved him most. And sometimes, when visitors passed by, they would pause and listen. Through the window, they could often hear laughter, one voice, soft and aged, and another as light and sweet as sugar. Because even the smallest heart, no matter what it's made of, can learn where it truly belongs. And love, once it's truly found, is what makes us all real. Thank you so much for joining us for this story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more tales that warm the heart. We'll see you next time.